There's a moment every morning that most people overlook. It happens before the coffee, before the messages, before the rush. It's that fragile space between sleep and action, when your body wakes up, but your mind hasn't caught up yet. And in that space, something powerful is already happening. You're either taking ownership of the day or surrendering to it. But most people don't realize they've surrendered because it doesn't look dramatic. It looks like reaching for your phone before your breath. It looks like scrolling, reacting, numbing. It looks like waiting for caffeine to make you feel capable of showing up to your own life. You think your day starts when the coffee hits, but by then, you've already given the first battle away. You've told your mind, I need something outside of me to function. I'm not enough without stimulation. I don't lead. I wait. If you've ever felt that silent loss before you even leave your bed, subscribe now. Not because you're weak, but because you're ready to wake up differently. Before anything else enters, you deserve to meet yourself. Clear, unfiltered, in command. Because before coffee comes choice. And the day doesn't wait for you to catch up. We've been conditioned to believe that our day starts with caffeine. That until we feel awake, we're not ready to lead, decide, or move. But the truth is, your day doesn't begin with energy. It begins with ownership. And what happens in the first few quiet moments, before the noise, before the input, sets the tone for everything that follows. Most people don't lose the day at 2 p.m. when they hit a wall. They lose it at 7 a.m. when they check out of themselves before checking in. They go from dream to distraction in under 60 seconds, from potential to autopilot, without even noticing the handoff. And slowly, day after day, they stop trusting themselves to lead. Not because they lack drive, but because they've forgotten how to pause before reacting. That's what this is about. Not coffee, not schedules, but your ability to command the beginning, to plant your flag in the ground and say, before anything enters me, I choose who I am. Because that choice, who you are in the first 5 minutes, echoes into your decisions, your tone, your presence. It's not about skipping coffee. It's about not depending on it to feel alive. When you reclaim those minutes, you're not just changing a routine. You're taking back authority over your attention. And in a world addicted to stimulation, attention is power. Stephen Covey didn't write about coffee, but he wrote about something far more powerful: the first moments of personal leadership. To Covey, the beginning of your day was sacred, not because of productivity, but because it revealed whether you were living by default or by design. He taught that every morning we face a choice: to act or to be acted upon. That's habit one. Be proactive. It's not about rigid routines or early alarms. It's about reclaiming authorship before the world starts writing your script. And here's the truth Covey made clear: private victories precede public victories. Before you lead your team, your family, your goals, you must lead your mind. But most people skip that part. They jump into the day fueled by caffeine, distraction, and urgency, never asking, am I living what I value, or just reacting to what's loudest? Covey believed in aligning daily actions with timeless principles. And that alignment, it doesn't begin with a to-do list. It begins with a pause, with silence, with space to remember who you are and what matters before the day demands something else. Because once the world starts pulling, it's much harder to stay anchored. So Covey's invitation is simple but radical. Start inside. Every day. First, drop in the comments. What would change if the first voice you heard each day was your own? Let's make this practical. Before the coffee, before the noise, before the scroll, just 10 minutes. That's where it starts. Not to be productive, but to reclaim authorship. Step 1, don't reach outward. Don't grab your phone. Don't turn on music. Don't check messages. Sit with yourself, even if it's uncomfortable. Because that discomfort, it's honesty. And honesty is where clarity begins. Step 2, breathe. Slowly, consciously, place one hand on your chest and ask silently, what kind of energy do I want to carry today? You don't need to fix your life right now. You just need to set your direction. That's the compass. Step 3, write one sentence. Not a journal, not a list, just a sentence that anchors your identity. I lead my day with focus. I protect my peace. I choose clarity over chaos. Step 4, move. Gently. Stretch. Walk. Open a window. Feel your body. Wake it with intention. You're not a machine. You're a system, and systems thrive on rhythm. Step 5, decide one non-negotiable. One thing today that aligns with your values. Not urgent, important, because when you practice priority first, you remind your subconscious that you're not just surviving. You're building something. And now, you can make your coffee, not because you need it to feel alive, but because you've already awakened. That's the difference. The world will still pull, but you've already led. You've already chosen who you are. And that kind of beginning creates a completely different kind of day. Be still for a moment. Not to meditate, not to optimize, just to notice. What have your mornings really been saying about you? Not the highlight reels, not the to-do list, but the tone, the silence, the first thought that enters when no one's watching. Maybe you've been waking up already behind, already overwhelmed, already unsure of who you're trying to become. Maybe you've started every day with a sigh instead of a decision, a scroll instead of a sentence, a distraction instead of direction. And it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been surviving in noise for so long. You forgot what your own clarity sounds like. So ask yourself, honestly, without shame, what am I avoiding by rushing into the day? What part of me have I been postponing until after the coffee, after the tasks, after the world quiets down? You deserve to begin differently, not to prove anything, but to remember yourself. And if this part of the video brought something real to the surface, pause for just one breath. And if it feels right, leave a like. Not for me, for you. As a quiet declaration, I'm done abandoning myself in the first hour. Something shifts when you stop outsourcing your presence. You begin to see yourself not as someone trying to catch up, but as someone already in motion, already in alignment. Now, you don't wake up hoping the day feels different. You wake up knowing that you get to make it different. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you are becoming. You don't skip the pause. You start with it, because that pause is your center, your anchor, your declaration. You no longer need to chase motivation because you've built identity. And identity doesn't waver with mood. It doesn't depend on perfect conditions. It speaks before your coffee, before the news, before the world sets the tone. That's who you are now. You rise with intention. You lead with stillness. You act from alignment. And day after day, the people around you will notice something different. Not louder, not faster, but clearer, deeper, rooted. Because transformation doesn't look like trying harder. It looks like remembering the person you already are and finally living from that place on purpose. There's something sacred about how you begin. Not the coffee, not the emails, but the first breath, the first thought, the first moment when you decide who you are. And maybe for too long, you've been giving that moment away to noise, to routine, to everyone but yourself. But not anymore. Now, you begin differently, with awareness, with choice, with presence, and the world doesn't need to notice. You will, in how you breathe, in how you speak, in how you stop rushing and start remembering. This is what real change feels like. Not chaotic, not dramatic, just quiet. True, yours. You don't need more hours. You need 1 hour, lived with intention, repeated with love, protected with conviction. And if something in this message stirred something in you, take a breath and subscribe, not for more information, but for continuation, for consistency, for the version of you that starts the day already whole. Because the world will always rush. But you don't have to. You lead now, and that changes everything.